Hi, I'm Jordan McDonald, staff writer with GovCIO, Media and Research, and welcome to GovCast. Today, I'm joined by Brian Campo, the Coast Guard's Deputy CIO and Chief Data and AI Officer. Hi, Brian. Welcome back.
Hey, Jordan, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Brian, there's been, a lot of AI talk coming from the White House. We've seen a number of AI executive orders and shifting priorities of where this emerging technology can go and develop and change and get funded. So I wanted to ask, from your perspective at the Coast Guard, how does the Coast Guard plan to, suppose, integrate AI into its automation and efficiency efforts?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there has been a lot of good guidance, a lot of opportunity coming from the new administration as far as AI goes. From a Coast Guard perspective, we are looking at a lot of opportunities to think about things differently. We're looking at it both for automation, for sort of the support to the workforce, but also we're just thinking about some of the services that we provide to the public. How can we change those? How can we rethink the way that we're providing services to the public? How can we rethink what role AI can play, and not just necessarily looking at things like chatbots and generation of content. We're really trying to rethink those core services. The ability to give both our workforce additional support, give them additional mechanisms is really, really interesting. The big thing there is going to end up being things along the lines of like, how can we get the workforce comfortable? How can we get the workforce thinking in terms of what these tools can do? And then just basically raising literacy, giving them the opportunity to think creatively. So there's a lot. It is a super exciting space. I am so excited to have the opportunity to lead Coast Guard through it, and really just interested in where across the government we can find partnerships to bring these technologies to bear.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the workforce. Obviously, it's the bread and butter of the Coast Guard. Um, Can you help me understand some of these mechanisms that you're using to better utilize AI and how that, I guess, you're helping the workforce become more literate, understand the potential of the technology as it gets adopted?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've been trying to think about it from a few different perspectives. For the workforce we've got today, we're really focused on trying to just get them access to tools. So, really great thing about being both a military service and being connected to the Department of Homeland Security is that we can leverage both sides of that tool set. So there are some tools from Army, Air Force, and then DHS has a chat tool. So all three of those chat tools are available to our workforce. They can use them on a regular basis. And we've been trying to encourage, give training, give support for them just to get them understanding where those things live, understanding how to engage with them, raising just basic literacy for them. And then internal to the Coast Guard, we've been working on a tool called Ask Hamilton that we're integrating into some of the core processes that we've got. It started as sort of a project for us to use just internally for some. We were going through a lot of process changes. We were updating a lot of instructions, and we wanted to make sure our workforce had an easy way to understand and keep up with that mass amount of changes that we were doing. So we created a tool called Ask Hamilton that it understands, and we feed it in all the latest all the latest processes and instructions, and then the workforce can engage with that and ask questions. And rather than reading a 35-page instruction, if they care about one specific aspect of the instruction, they can get to that very quickly. It was built to be very grounded. It doesn't answer questions that are outside the scope of those instructions. It always cites its resources. It gives you direct links to that information. It's been great. We've had fantastic feedback. In fact, it is overtaken basic search for us from the content that it's had access to. And so that was really, I talked about how do we get the workforce engaged in tools. I think that was a really easy one, giving them the opportunity to get to something they cared about rather than us trying to push a tool on them that they may not have cared about. So that's been really, really good. And then just being clear about what we can do, what we can't do, making sure that the workforce understands, what the rules of the road are, where the bounds are. That's been really, really important for us. And then the final piece has been we had a great adoption curve for just automation in general. As we were moving into some new IT systems, we sort of thought about where and how automation, like robotic process automation, some basic automation functions that we created, we built them into some of the systems so that things that would take a manual process, our folks had a chance to use automation. So again, just getting them familiar with it, getting them exposed, helping them understand the value it provides to them. That has been really, really positively received by the workforce. And it really creates sort of a virtuous cycle for them.
I'm seeing a lot of reluctance. Well, maybe not a lot of reluctance, but there is reluctance sometimes to adopt AI, and it's interesting to see the ways that, as you're saying, Ask Hamilton is bridging that gap and helping people understand where AI can be helpful in their own workflow.
Yeah, I would suggest that one of the things that we've tried to do is not make it about AI, right? So, look, there's a natural reluctance to a new technology as it enters the space, right? We saw that with everything from the internet to mobile phones. Every new technology has some reluctance to it because it disrupts the way people engage with whatever it is that they're doing. So one of the things that we really tried to do, and again, maybe to your point, is we tried to think about it as what do they care about and how do we get them to the thing they care about quicker rather than saying, hey, come use our new AI tool, right? It has always been about how do we improve the experience? How do we improve the results? How do we get them to the thing they care about quicker? How do we make it easier? How do we take something, that is drudgery for them? The AI piece of that becomes less of the marketing angle and more of it is just really focused on how do we enable, augment, and support the workforce. And I think that helps a lot when you don't force them to embrace the thing that makes that creates anxiety or makes people uneasy.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You've talked a lot about the modernization efforts and workforce efforts at the Coast Guard. I'm sort of curious, are you taking cues from like fellow service branches, and what lessons are you taking away from their efforts to, make people more comfortable with AI that you're hoping that like, hey, maybe we can do this at Coast Guard, or maybe, share your experiences with them?
Yeah, 100%. Coast Guard is a small service, and so we can't be out in front of everything. We've brought some unique angles to things, but if it wasn't for, Air Force, especially some of the things that AFRL is doing, if it wasn't for the Army getting their tools out quickly, giving people the chance to engage with them, and then DHS sort of leading in the space of, getting a chatbot that had access. We could use their DHS chat with some information that we couldn't use with some of the other services just because of the way it was built. They built in some really interesting services. So with them kind of leading and paving that path, us bringing and able to leverage what they built and some of the technology that they implemented, and then us having some interesting ways to integrate those services into some of the things that we're doing. Absolutely, we would not be where we were. We don't have a huge AI budget. I don't have an entire staff to build out AI apps. So it has been really important for us to be able to leverage what others are doing. It's been really important for us to be able to fast follow behind some of our partners.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, the Coast Guard sort of a smaller service compared to the other service branches. And, across government, we're seeing a bit of budget cuts, restructuring, maybe right sizing or streamlining the agencies. For the Coast Guard, how are you, as you're planning to integrate AI, doing more with less?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the push and pull of AI is that, the promise is that you'll be able to do so much more that it's going to fundamentally change the way we do things. That is true, right? We have definitely been able to, and I can talk a little bit about some of the new services, some of the new ways we're looking at providing service, some of the things that we're still, early in this stage of implementation on. But yeah, I mean, the challenge is that the budget for this new transformational technology has been hard to get. We don't have money just flowing in for us to throw a bunch of money. Like, corporate can do they can look at AI differently, right? They can raise money. They can look at trying to do some other ways of getting immediate funding to bring in a new technology. On the government side, we don't really have that. We have been looking at where can we integrate it into things we're already doing? How can we look at, I talked about some of the ways that we were looking at existing services, integrating it in, giving us the ability to get after it. But, for instance, one of the new ways that we're thinking about doing services is doing the same thing we did for our instructions on the HR side, is trying to think of, the Coast Guard is the owner of a large amount of mariner policy. A lot of merchant activity that happens comes through ports. And so, the Coast Guard has a lot of policy and regulation around that. And it changes. And it's really hard for mariners who are really focused on, some of them are small businesses, some of them are just newly credentialed, just trying to get started doing things. And it's really hard to get an understanding of all the policy that applies. So one of the things we'd really like to do is figure out how we could give them the same ability to engage with policy through something like a well-grounded, well-focused, sort of chatbot that they can ask questions about policy. They can, rather than just a basic search through the text of the document, they can look for specific things that they're interested in and get directed straight to it, and get more context that sometimes doesn't exist within existing policies. We're early in the development of that. It's taken a little bit longer than we wanted to because, again, it's a new function. It wasn't in the congressional budget. It's not something that we've gone through the entire government funding life cycle to do, but we're trying to think about ways that we can accelerate getting those services out within the existing cycles. So, it's definitely challenging. I do see a lot of promise. I do think as we get, sort of the snowball rolling down the hill, this will be something that will create long-term benefits. It will actually accelerate the way that we do services, but it is really hard, just given the way budget cycles work, to kind of get it started. Coast Guard's got a lot of other things that we're trying to do. We're trying to field new cutters. We're trying to build out a lot of other capabilities to really support priorities, around immigration, around border enforcement. So, AI, I think, has a lot of opportunity. We just have to figure out the right way to get that snowball rolling.
Excited to see that snowball roll down that hill. So thank you so much, Brian.
Absolutely.
Really looking forward to seeing the new ways that Coast Guard leverages AI.
Yes, 100%. I am excited. I think our data work that we're doing is really helping that. We sort of have been working on trying to change the way we engage with data over the last, 3-4 years. And we're starting to see that, reach a critical mass. And as that is going, that is just, accelerating some of the data and AI integration that we need to do. Then that leads to some AI capabilities that are a lot easier to get out. So it's been really good. We are starting to see a lot of that go, and honestly, the feedback has been great. I know other organizations are having challenges with getting adoption of their data and AI services. I think for us, there's so many great things happening in the Coast Guard. Our workforce has really started to embrace it. I am just trying to figure out how I can lean into and accelerate those things as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Brian, thank you so much for the conversation. Appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing the ways that Coast Guard leverages AI in the future.
Yeah, no, Jordan, I appreciate it as well. It was a great conversation.